CID Officer Rao sat in the interrogation room, the dim bulb above casting a yellow circle on the metal table. The walls were silent, covered in soundproof padding, but there was a tension that made the air feel heavy. The door opened, and Ethan Cross was escorted inside. His wrists were free. He hadn't been arrested, just invited for questioning. That alone made Rao suspicious. A man who wasn't afraid to walk into CID on his own, that was either a fool, or someone with a plan. Ethan sat down without being asked. His eyes didn't wander. He studied the officer in front of him the way a surgeon examined a patient, slow and calculating. Rao placed a thin brown file on the table. There wasn't much in it yet. But that would change soon. Rao leaned forward and said, "Everyone saw them build the houses, 96 of them. But you? You didn't say a word. Why?" His tone was calm, but his eyes were hunting for a crack in Ethan's expression. Ethan didn't blink. Because people only notice silence when it's too late. He said it softly, like he was admitting a secret, but his voice had weight. Rao's pen stopped moving. This wasn't a nervous man. He was measured, confident, almost amused. Then Ethan reached into his coat pocket. The nearby CID guard tensed, but Ethan only pulled out a single folded sheet of paper. He placed it on the table and slid it forward. Rao slowly opened it. It was an original land deed, 48 acres of property. Uncontested ownership. No disputes. No loopholes. The very land where the HOA had built an entire residential community. Ethan had never sold it. Never transferred it. Legally, it was still his. Rao's jaw tightened. If this was authentic, every house, every family, everything on that land belonged to Ethan now. But then the question rose like a shadow, why let them finish construction first? Why stay silent when he could have stopped it at the very beginning? Rao met Ethan's eyes again, and saw something darker than greed. It wasn't just land. It wasn't just money. This was personal. As Ethan sat there calmly, Rao noticed something else. A faint outline in Ethan's wallet, like a photograph tucked behind a license. Ethan didn't hide it. As he leaned forward, the photo briefly slipped out. Rao's trained instincts caught the detail, a young woman. Smiling. But there was something haunting in her eyes. She didn't look happy. She looked afraid. Rao asked, "Who is she?" Ethan's answer came too quickly. "No one important." That was a lie, and they both knew it. The officer didn't push further. Not yet. Instead, he spoke slowly, "You're playing a dangerous game, Mr. Cross. You sat back and let them build an entire community on your land. Now you walk in with the deed like a ticking bomb." Ethan gave a slight smirk. "Explosions are loud. I prefer when destruction happens quietly." Rao closed the file. He didn't need more evidence. He needed answers. He leaned forward and asked one final question. "Tell me, Ethan, what did the HOA really take from you?" Ethan's eyes darkened. "Someone who can't be replaced." Then the room fell silent. The interrogation wasn't about land anymore. It had just become personal, and dangerous. Moonlight spilled over the half-finished houses like a pale confession. Cement dust floated in the air, and the smell of wet soil clung to every shadow. The construction site was silent at night, but Ethan Cross knew silence could speak louder than anything built on stolen land. He stood alone near the unfinished foundations, watching the breeze move through the plastic covers like ghosts trying to escape. His footsteps echoed as he walked between the structures, like he was wandering through a city that didn't belong to him, yet somehow did. That's when he saw her again. Elara. The woman who appeared like a secret and disappeared like a warning. She stepped out from behind a scaffold, her silhouette trembling slightly from the cold night wind. She looked different after sunset, less human, more myth. A quiet storm in human form. Ethan stared at her without speaking. He didn't have to. Some connections didn't start with words. Eventually, she whispered his name. There was fear in her voice, but also a dangerous kind of longing. You shouldn't be here, Ethan. My father, if he finds out. Her voice broke before finishing the threat. Ethan walked closer. Let him find out, he said. This is my land. Or maybe it never was. Maybe it was always yours. She took a step back, as if distance could protect them. You don't understand. They don't care about documents. They don't care about law. If you keep this up, they won't sue you, they'll bury you. He watched her carefully. The way her hands trembled. The way her eyes avoided his. She wasn't warning him for their sake. She was warning him to save himself. Then Ethan asked a question that changed everything. Did they force you to stay quiet too? Elara hesitated. That was all the answer he needed. She finally admitted what she had been hiding. The HOA wasn't just a community. It was an empire of control, money laundering, threats, coercion. Her father wasn't a president. He was a king. And kings never surrendered power willingly. If they know about us, she said, you'll disappear before sunrise. They'll erase you like a typing error. But Ethan didn't respond with fear. Instead, he reached out and touched her hand, gently, as though touching a dream. Let them build on my land, he said softly. Let them think they own me. I can take losing acres. But I won't lose you. That was the first time, Elara cried. Not loudly. Just a quiet surrender of tears that caught moonlight and betrayal in the same drop. She leaned into him, but love felt like trespassing. They both sensed it. Their connection was wrong in all the right ways. A secret that breathed in shadows. Before leaving, she looked at him one last time. Swear you'll walk away from this. Promise me you'll live. Ethan nodded but lied. He never intended to walk away. Because something in her voice told him she wouldn't survive this world much longer. In that moment he understood, sometimes love doesn't save us. Sometimes it gives us someone to fight for. The courtroom was packed like a theater on opening night. Except no one knew what show they had come to watch. The HOA members sat confidently in their tailored suits, their lawyers smiling like wolves in daylight. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered predictions. The judge adjusted his glasses, expecting a routine case of property dispute, a paperwork battle, nothing more. But Ethan Cross entered like a ghost whose time had finally come. Calm. Silent. Carrying only a single black folder. He took his seat without greeting his lawyers. He didn't need them. This wasn't a legal battle, it was a reveal. A reckoning. The HOA president, Harold Vance, smiled at Ethan from across the courtroom. A smile of dismissal. A smile that said, you already lost. Ethan didn't respond. He only placed the black folder on the table. Everyone heard it land, but no one understood the threat inside. The judge called the session to order. Statements were made. Legal jargon filled the air. But then came Ethan's turn. He stood and opened the folder. Slowly. Almost tenderly. Like he was unveiling something holy, or lethal. Inside was the original land deed. Clear. Untouched. And dated before any construction permit was ever issued. When he handed it to the judge, the shift in the room was instant. Lawyers froze mid-sentence. Harold's confident expression cracked. The judge took off his glasses and examined the document more than once, as if hoping it would change on the second look. But it didn't. The deed was real. And it was damning. Ethan spoke calmly. 96 houses built without ownership. Every family, every wall, every brick, they all stand on my land. Lawfully. Entirely. And today, I take it back. Gasps spread through the courtroom like wildfire. Panic rose in the HOA members' eyes. Harold stood up, furious. This is blackmail. You let us build those houses. Ethan's reply was ice. I didn't let you. I watched you. There's a difference. The judge struck the gavel once. The entire HOA community was declared illegal. Ownership reverted to Ethan Cross. But silence didn't fill the room, it cracked open something darker. CID Officer Rao stood at the back of the courtroom observing everything. He noticed a single moment no one else did. Right after the judgment, Ethan didn't look relieved. Or victorious. His eyes didn't fall on the lawyers, or the land deed. They searched through the crowd for someone. Elara. Rao approached Ethan quietly. You won the land. But you're still chasing someone. Ethan's jaw tightened. He whispered, this isn't over. I have questions only one person can answer. Rao watched him closely. And what if she's gone? Ethan didn't blink. Then this land will become a graveyard of lies until I find the truth. Harold was escorted out by CID officers for questioning. The courtroom emptied slowly. The judgment was over. But the real case had just begun. The land now belonged to Ethan, but his heart remained missing. Somewhere between love and conspiracy, a woman had vanished. And Ethan Cross wasn't a man who left things unfinished.